it's Melanie. It's the end of April, so I thought I would hop on and share with you my reading wrap-up for the month. In the month of April, I was able to read 10 books, which I am super pleased with. I participated in the OWLs Readathon this month, so each of the books that I read fit one of the OWL prompts, and I'll sort of go through that as I'm going through the books that I read. I started out the month with the book With the Fire on High, which is a YA contemporary. So I read this for the OWL Muggle Studies. The prompt was to read a contemporary. With the Fire on High, it follows the story of a teen mom in high school with a young daughter, and sort of the people that support her in that position and the people that don't. Has a lot of class conflict dialogue, and demographic narrative and food and cooking play a huge role in the book, which I really enjoyed because I like to cook. So I liked reading about all the dishes and foods that were sort of created over the course of the story. I also really liked the sort of tussle and the balance that the main character needed to find between pursuing her own passions and living her own life, while at the same time providing for her daughter and maintaining all of the relationships that she has within her life. I listened to this on audiobook. It was a fantastic experience. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I went on to pick up the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This was a natural choice for the History of Magic OWL. Prompt was to read a book featuring witches and wizards. Harry Potter fits the bill for that. I'm a huge Harry Potter lover, so I reread Harry Potter all the time. Rereading it on audiobook is a beautiful adventure. I highly recommend it. In the month of April, my library had a partnership with the publishing company and provided the ebook and the audiobook of the first Harry Potter book for free to anyone who was accessing, anyone with a library card, I guess. So that was really pleasant. It was a great journey. I loved listening to it again. Obvious 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I picked up Everything for my Charms OWL. The prompt was to read a book with white on the cover. I selected Everything by Nicola Yoon actually because the main character in this has a medical condition that means she cannot leave her house, she can't go outside, so I thought it was very relevant to society right now, and I kind of wanted to revisit this book. It was a reread for me, and see what I thought about it now. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Yeah, it was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I picked up a read for potions. The prompt was to read a book under 150 pages. Surprisingly, I don't have a lot of books under 150 pages, so I finally found this book of poetry called She Who Destroys the Light. I received this from Thought Catalog, I think last year, and I liked it. The poetry is very haunting, but there were a couple poems that really resonated with me, and for me in poetry, that's a win. I want to feel something, and this definitely made that happen. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars as well. Following that, I picked up the audiobook and ebook in conjunction of The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren is one of my favorite authors, and I read this book for the Ancient Runes OWL, which was to read a book with a heart on the cover. I was actually highly anticipating this book. I think it just came out, and it was such a great ride. I feel like Christina Lauren books sometimes are very surface level and don't get very deep into like heavy topics, but this one took that route and I loved it. I loved both of the main characters. It follows 2 people who are working for the same company, and that company has a lot of, it's a family company, family owned company, so has a lot of sort of secrets and things that are going on, scandals, things that are being covered up, I guess, and so those 2 characters sort of have to deal with that and how it impacts their own lives. I loved the book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very enjoyable read. After that, I picked up The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a parody book that I listened to on audiobook of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I picked this up for the arithmancy OWL. The prompt was to read a book that is outside of your comfort zone, something you normally wouldn't read. I don't read a lot of self-help books. I also don't read a lot of books with a lot of swearing, so this was definitely outside of my comfort zone in that respect. It is also very short, so it didn't take me that long to read. I can't say too much about it. It was interesting. I liked the concepts that are brought up. I thought it was worthwhile. There were a couple of good takeaways in the book that I could apply to my own life, so it was a good investment of time, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I picked up the ebook of The Queen of Nothing. This is the third book in the Folk of the Air series. I read the first book and the second book in previous years, and I read this for the Transfiguration OWL, which is a book which the prompt is to read a book that includes shape-shifting. I can't say too much about this book because it is the third book in the series, but what I can say is I didn't like the first book very much at all. The first book is called The Cruel Prince. I liked the second book, The Wicked King, more than the first book, and then this third book, The Queen of Nothing, I loved so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know whether it's because I just haven't read fantasy in a long time, but I was so enveloped. I loved the character progression, and the character development in this series is out of this world. I really liked it. It was a very strong concluding novel to the trilogy. I'm very happy I picked it up. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Illuminae. This was a reread for me. I first read it in 2015. It's a very chunky book, but the sort of like format of the book makes it go by very quickly. I recommend this book purely for the format. It's very unique, and the actual content of the book is also very unique and sort of something that I've never seen before. I selected this for my astronomy read, which is to read a book mostly at nighttime. So I read this obviously after dark for several days. It follows the story of a girl and a guy whose planet, it's sci-fi, so their planet gets attacked, and there is a whole like epidemic element in this book, which is what drew me to reading it, like rereading it at this time. It was really good. It made me feel a lot better about the current state of the world, that while I won't even go there, I liked this. Rereading it was great. I gave it a 5 out of 5. After that, I picked up my selection for Defense Against the Dark Arts, which was to read a book set on the coast or set at sea. For that, I selected my book of the month pick for April. This was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is a perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover, because the cover made me think that this was going to be really lighthearted, really fun, and it is those things, but it also has an element of heaviness and weight that I wasn't expecting by looking at this cover. That being said, I did really enjoy it. I thought that the two main characters, had a great dynamic and dealt with a lot of very real things that are relatable, even if they're unrelatable. So I'm glad I read it right away. It was a great book of the month selection, and I am so pleased that I got through it. I gave that a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I ended the month last night by reading A Man Called Eva for my herbology OWL. The prompt is to read a book that starts with M. I decided to not count A or the in this, and so man starts with the letter M. This book, oh my gosh, I finished it last night. It is so heartbreaking. It is beautifully written. A lot of people have told me that this book is fantastic, and I now very much agree. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I listened to it partially on audiobook and read a large chunk of it last night. It's just great. I loved it, and I'm so happy I read it. So yes, that is everything I read in the month of April, all 10 books. Please let me know in the comments what you read this month, what was your favorite book, and I will be back soon.